Welcome to a special edition of Grounded Spirits Podcast, a place where we're learning how to stay rooted while flying high. I'm your host, Laura Lynn, and today we are looking at Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets Department, the anthology, specifically looking at tracks 19, 20, and 21, which are the Albatross, Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, and How Did It End? So let's get into it. We're going to go line by line and figure out what Taylor is really saying in all of these songs. The Albatross begins with, "Wise men once said, wild winds are death to the candle." And throughout the entire album, she's been talking about this wildness that she feels like she's had to keep in. And now she finally feels like confident enough or like comfortable enough in her skin to be able to release this wildness that she's had her entire life. I always bring it up that this wildness is coming from her Sagittarius sun, so she's meant to exhibit this wild nature, this unruly nature. She talks a lot about wolves too, and we talked about this a couple of episodes ago with Clarissa Pinkolas Estes' book, Women Who Run with Wolves, I believe it's called, and saying that all women have this wild nature that resembles the wildness of a wolf. And so the fact that she uses this quote, that wild winds are death to the candle, it's looking at her. So the wild part is her Sagittarius sun, the winds are her Aquarius rising, and then our death to the candle. So the candle could be like the flame of a lover that she talks about, especially in track 3, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys, talking about this flame that needs to be extinguished. She also talks about it as a flame in LOML, and here we see it again. But it could also be seen as the wild winds are death to the candle. So again, her Sagittarius sun is a fire sign. So it could also be like this wildness could destroy the flame that she's been building, like this legacy. And so I tried looking up who actually said this, what wise men once said this. And so I tried putting it into Google, and only the Albatross stuff was coming up. So then I put into ChatGPT, and it said that the quote, "Wild winds are death to a candle," is from Mary Stuart's novel, Madam, Will You Listen? It is often used metaphorically to convey the vulnerability of delicate things or ideas when faced with harsh or adverse circumstances. So it could be that, it might not be, but that's what I was able to find. But the way that they use delicate reminds me of Taylor's song, Delicate. And so in Delicate, that whole song, she's talking about how she's getting swept away and she wants to slow down, but she can't because she is just in this whirlwind of new love and she's loving it. And if I'm right and Joe Alwyn's rising sign is Gemini, it would make sense. I see the rising sign as the soul, right? So his soul is a tornado and her soul is a tornado, and they have this beautiful tornado going. It's easy to get swept away. And I think that it could be reference to that. But then also looking at the negative effects of this wild wind that could kill their flame, that maybe the winds were too rough. She brings it up a little bit in Florida where she says like the winds like could, how does she say it? That it's the part with Florence. Here it is. "And the hurricane with my name, when it came, I got drunk and I dared it to wash me away, barricaded in the bathroom with a bottle of wine. Well, me and my ghost, we had a hell of a time." So hurricanes are also full of wind, but with water too. And so again, that could easily wipe out or snuff the flame. But it's interesting that if this quote really is from Mary Stuart, then why did she say wise men? Why wouldn't she, if it is a woman, why wouldn't she give credit to a woman? I feel like that's something that Taylor would do. So that's why I'm a little iffy if that actually is true. But regardless, I think that the words that what she's actually trying to get at by using this quote, no matter where it comes from, I think that I have explained that part. Then she goes on to say, a rose by any other name is a scandal. And this part, this is from Shakespeare, when Romeo is talking to Juliet, a rose by any other name. Let me get like that actual full quote, one second. So again, I just put into ChatGPT, and it said that a rose by any other name is a famous line from Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet, like I said. In the play, Juliet is expressing her love for Romeo despite the fact that he is from the rival Montague family. She argues that names are arbitrary and don't change the essence of a thing. So even if Romeo was called something else, he would still be the same person she loves. This line has since become a popular expression to convey the idea that the essence of something remains the same regardless of what it's called. So in the Albatross, she's saying that no matter what you call it, it's still a scandal. And she brings up scandal quite a few times throughout. The one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head is in track 6, But Daddy, I Love Him, where she says that scandal is a funny thing with pride, that it brings the lovers closer, and so it shows like people's true colors. And so maybe that's what she's getting at here as well, that a rose by any other name is a scandal, that no matter what you call it, it's still going to reveal the true colors of someone. But I'm wondering if she's saying that the death of a candle, that's the scandal, because like what scandal is she talking about? In But Daddy, I Love Him, she's like, oh, like there was a scandal and that's why I had to go away, but then when I came back, then everybody loved him. In another song, she says that the bullets almost like barely grazed, and that it's about a scandal. Here it is. It's in track 10, Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. It says, the scandal was contained, the bullet had just grazed. At all costs, keep your good name. You don't get to tell me you feel bad. So again, like what scandal is she talking about? Is she still referring to the Kim Kanye situation? Like I feel like that was the biggest scandal of her career, but this doesn't really seem to fit with that wild winds are death to the candle, unless she's saying that Kim and Kanye were the wild winds and that she was the candle. And so no matter what you call it, it's still a scandal. Maybe. The Albatross is one of the few songs that I have listened to this song repeatedly and I still don't quite understand it. So bear with me as we go through this one. The next line is, cautions issued, he stood, shooting the messengers. They tried to warn him about her. So the cautions issued, he stood. I think this refers to like the new guy. Like people say, there are memes out there that say, oh, like what about Taylor Swift especially talking about Delicate, the way that she dances in Delicate. People have been making fun of her and saying, oh yeah, Travis Kelce, he saw this and was like, yeah, that's what I want. But I think that any guy from before, let's think back, like maybe like after Shake It Off, like that's when she points fun at it, that everybody says that she just dates all these guys, then like be careful, like don't date Taylor Swift because she's gonna write songs about you. Like that whole narrative came out. So maybe that's the scandal that she's talking about, that a rose by any other name is a scandal. Like just by her own name, Taylor Swift, that's a scandal if you want to get with her. So cautions issued, he stood. So even though people warned him against her, he still stayed, shooting the messengers that he didn't. And I say he, I don't know who the he is. It could be Joe, it could be Travis, it could be Matt. I have no idea. Maybe as we keep reading, we'll figure it out. But whoever he is, they all involved themselves with her. So they all stood up, even though these cautions were issued, shooting the messenger. So here it reminds me again of Delicate, where she's saying, like, I'm at the lowest of my low. And throughout all of Reputation, she says, and my guy don't care about what they say about me. My guy, he still loves me for me. Like, all of these things. So again, like, shooting the messengers. They try to warn him about her. Is how that verse ends. Cross your thoughtless heart. Only liquor anoints you. She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you. So I wonder what she means by thoughtless heart. That she's saying that the people that get with her, they have to have no brain in order to be with her. This is what she also points fun at in Shake It Off. She says, like, there's nothing in my brain. That's what they'll say. So yeah, so I think that maybe this is like reference to Shake It Off, that verse, like, that I go on too many dates, but I can't make them stay, and then I have nothing in my brain. So cross your thoughtless heart. But it could also be cross your thoughtless heart, that when you say, like, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a needle in your eye, is that you're entering this vow, you're entering this promise. And so if someone has a thoughtless heart, it means that it's fake. And she talks about the fakeness of her relationships, especially in LOML. She talks about, like, that's counterfeit and the fakeness. And then in the Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, she says that, like, you're off stage, you've kicked the lights, but you're still performing. So it could also be that, like, you entered this vow without really thinking it through, without really committing to it. Only liquor anoints you. So this is going back to Delicate, where she says, let me pull it up because I actually have it from when I was looking at it earlier. She says, but you can, here it is. Here we go. Okay. My reputation's never been worse, so you must like me for me. We can't make any promises now, can we, babe? But you can make me a drink. Dive bar on the east side, where you at? So yeah, it's like, we can't make any promises, but here he did make a promise, but it came out of his thoughtless heart. He didn't actually think it through when he was making this promise. And only liquor anoints you. Interesting. She's the albatross. She is here to destroy you. I'm interested to see if albatross, like, what is the symbolism behind an albatross? All right, so I looked it up, and there are a lot of meanings behind albatross. So it could mean freedom and exploration. So we've been talking about that with her Sagittarius sun, that she needs that freedom. It's just a part of her. And it says that it represents the spirit of adventure. So again, with that wildness and the desire to roam without constraints, because albatross, they glide effortlessly across oceans. I want to say a long time ago, I watched this documentary about albatross and how they leave their young, like, on the cliffside, and then they go and get food, and they're not back for months. And like they're like the only birds or something that can go months without eating, and they can just glide and fly. And then the next one says, good fortune. In some cultures, encountering an albatross is believed to bring good luck or serve as a positive omen. Sailors in particular have regarded the sighting of an albatross as a sign of favorable winds and safe passage. So interesting about the favorable winds, because she starts it off by saying that the wild winds are the death to a candle. Then the number 3, this is all on ChatGPT, spirituality and wisdom. The albatross's long lifespan and solitary nature have led to associations with wisdom, introspection, and spiritual enlightenment. Its solidarity flies over the open ocean of contemplation and introspection. Now here is where it gets good. So it says that in reference to Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. So I decided to go and read it. And it's actually a super long poem, so I did not read the entire thing, but I skimmed it. And in it, it starts off by, like, they're in this fog and mist, and there's nothing that they can see for miles, but there's this albatross that just keeps, like, circling around and circling around. And like how I read to you that the first one, it's supposed to be like a sign of good luck, right? But then he just gets annoyed with this albatross just like soaring over him. And even if it is a good luck charm that this albatross is like watching over him, he gets annoyed, and maybe he's frustrated that the albatross can fly and has this freedom, and he's stuck on this boat. But whatever the reason is, he kills him or her. He kills the albatross. And it says in the poem, the killing of an albatross brings misfortune and guilt upon the mariner, serving as a reminder of the consequences of thoughtless action. So that's what it says here, right? Cross your thoughtless heart. And so then I asked it to go a little further with it. And it says that that the act of killing the albatross can be interpreted as a violation of sacred or natural order, resulting in guilt and spiritual consequence for the mariner. And here's where it gets even better. So, in the poem, he talks about this woman, and I try to look it up, like, who's the woman? Like, why is he talking about this woman? Because here's how it starts off. So this is from the poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And it says, "Alas, thought I, and my heart beat loud, how fast she nears and nears. Are those her sails that glance in the sun like restless gossameres? Are those her ribs through which the sun did peer as through a grate?" So, so Rumi, he is a Persian poet of the 13th century. He talks about our ribs as a cage for our heart or our soul, that our heart or soul just like wants to get out, it wants to get back to God, it wants to serve God, but that this physical body and these ribs that act like a rib cage, that the cage doesn't let the soul be free. And I feel like that's what we're all after as human beings. We just want our soul to be free. We want to be who we are and not have to apologize for it. We don't want to be people pleasers. There's a great quote that says, if you're too busy being a people pleaser, how can you be a God pleaser? Like, you can't do both. You have to be one or the other. And whether you believe in God or not, the God part is just like the part inside of you that is true to your nature. In so many of my readings and my research, it says that soul is just a part of God. It's the divinity that lies within. And so it's so interesting that here Coleridge is saying basically the same thing, that are those her ribs through which the sun did peer as through a grate. So the sun is like this beautiful, like the sunrise, something that we can count on. It's something that brings light, obviously. But like when you're in darkness, you need that light at the end of the tunnel to know where to go. So it could also be like a sense of freedom, that freedom is just above the horizon, but these ribs, there's this cage that you're trapped behind. And is that woman all her crew? Is that a death? And are there two? Is death that woman's mate? Interesting. So she's saying that like the woman is kind of like a grim reaper kind of a thing. Is death that woman's mate? So yeah, is that woman friends with death? And like I said, I looked it up what woman is he talking about, and it said there it's open for interpretation. It could be the albatross. It could be like Mother Nature because he committed this atrocity. It could be like his moral or spiritual self. But here's the coolest part. Okay, it says, her lips were red, her looks were free, her locks were yellow as gold, and her skin was white as leprosy. The nightmare, life and death was she, who thicks man's blood with cold. So tell me that he didn't describe Taylor Swift. Like, this is like so her, you know? Lips are red, looks were free, locks were yellow as gold, and her skin was white as leprosy. So she clearly read this poem. And it makes so much sense that she's the albatross, she's here to destroy you. That is what these guys are thinking, that she's here just to get the song out of them, right? Like, that's what she's been painted as in this villain self. And so, yeah, it was just so wild. Okay, so then moving on, she says, wise men once said, one bad seed kills the garden, one less temptress, one less dagger to sharpen. So let's go see where these quotes are from. Before we get into those quotes, I forgot to say, like, the only liquor anoints you. So typically you get anointed by oil or like by some kind of like holy water. It's supposed to be like a ritual, like something beautiful. And so it's saying that only liquor anoints you. Like how do I say this? That only liquor is what is making you stay, maybe, or like only liquor is what is the only thing that was holy, the only thing that was real about our relationship was the fact that we drank together, and that there was nothing holy about it. So again, like with the cross your thoughtless heart, the way that the mariner shot the albatross thoughtlessly, that they're not thinking through their actions, but it could be because they're just drunk. She's the albatross, she is here to destroy you. So when you kill the albatross, when you commit this heinous crime against the natural order, then you are going to be destroyed. And then it goes to, the wise men once said, when bad seed kills the garden. I put it into ChatGPT, and it just said that it's just like a a proverbial expression often used to convey the idea that a single negative influence or action can have widespread and detrimental effects on a larger group or community. So basically it's kind of like a bad apple kills the whole bunch kind of thing. So it's along those same lines. But this part was really interesting, though. One less temptress, one less dagger to sharpen. It's a line from the character Leonidas, played by Gerard Butler in the movie 300. In the film, Leonidas says this line to his soldiers as they prepare for battle against the Persian army. The phrase implies that eliminating a potential threat or distraction can strengthen their focus and resolve in combat. So she's saying here that by getting rid of a temptress, so a woman who's tempting you, then that's what will save the whole community. So the same thing goes. So these two are along the same lines, right? One bad seed kills the garden, one less temptress, one less dagger to sharpen. She's saying that if it's me, like I'm the hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me. Oh my gosh. That it's me. Like, I'm the problem. So, yeah, I had to get locked up in the towers. The next line. So let me read it the way that she writes it. Locked me up in towers, but I'd visit in your dreams, and they tried to warn you about me. It's so hard not to sing it. I know I keep saying that, but it's just like, I just want to sing it, but I'm not confident enough to sing it. So, locked me up in towers. So this is the whole thing of like anti-hero, like, hey, I'm the problem, it's me, so I'm gonna go up and be the monster on the hill so that no one can say that it's my fault. But here she's saying, I'd visit you in your dreams. So she's saying that, like, even when I'm the monster on the hill, that I still have an impact on people. and I'd visit you in your dreams. So it's interesting because she talks about dreams a lot throughout. But in this context, she's saying that like her creativity just like infiltrates our psyche. And it's interesting because she puts it in, I'm like mixing them up now, but she says like, I think it's Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, that I put narcotics in my songs and that's why you're still singing along. That like her music's infectious because it's that light, it's that sun that we can see through the ribs of her, like how Coleridge's poem said, right? That she's the sun. And yeah, okay. And they try to warn you about me. So she's saying that like everybody was against her, so that's why she had to get locked up in towers. But then again, that goes to show like with being caged, that she's up in this tower, that she feels that nobody wants her for her, they just want her for her music. And then it goes into the chorus again. Cross your thoughtless heart, only liquor anoints you. She's the albatross, she is here to destroy you. Devils that you know raise worse hell than a stranger. She's the death you chose, you're in terrible danger. So it's interesting that she calls herself the danger, because in track 3, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toy, she says the same thing, that the heat of my touch was the danger, and that's why you had to smash it up. Let me give you that exact line really quick, even though I've said it on here multiple times, but it's just so good that we have to keep going back to it. It says, there was danger in the heat of my touch. There it is. So that the people that do pursue her, that do want a relationship with her, devils that you know raise worse hell than a stranger. So she's saying that I think she's calling herself the devil in that context, right? That like once you get to know her, then you know how dangerous she is. That she's the death you chose, and she talks about death and dying in all of these songs, almost, I would say. That yeah, like you, in order to be with her, you have to be ready to grow. And in order to grow, we have to go through our ego deaths. We have to constantly die and be reborn and die again and be reborn. I think that's why she's also talking about like these flames and like the candle. Like she has to burn it all down in order to reinvent herself. And I think that like because she's in the public eye, people see that as negative, but it happens to all of us. We all have to reinvent ourselves. We all have to, in order to get to the next level, we have to face those parts of ourselves that we don't like. And if she's calling herself the sun, like in that Coleridge poem, then by having, how do I say this? By going towards the sun is that heat in the, what did she say it? The touch of danger. I just read it, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so she's saying like you're in terrible danger. And it's interesting because in I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can, she calls him the dangerous one, and she's like, yeah, like I'm cool with danger. I love the danger because that's where I thrive, because in order to grow, we have to put ourselves in risky situations. Obviously, like still with that protection, still like doing it in a safe way, but that in order to grow as human beings, we need that risk. We need that danger. Oh my gosh, in this next line, oh my gosh, okay. It says, and when that sky rains fire on you. Oh my gosh, okay. So, oh my gosh, okay. So, when that sky rains fire on you, so it's like the raining of her. So, like here it says rains, like as in like rain falling, like water coming from the sky. But here she's saying that it's fire, that it's not the water that's going to be coming down. It's the fire. It's that flame on the inside that she portrays by being her natural, wild, Sagittarius self. So it says, and when that sky rains fire on you and your persona non grata. So I looked that up, and it means like unwelcome. And then it says, I'll tell you how I've been there too, and none of it matters. That when shit hits the fan, when you feel like you're getting burned alive, and you feel like you're not welcome in a situation, that she knows what that's like, because she's been there, and she's telling you that none of it matters. Going back to that scandal part, a rose by any other name is a scandal. That no matter what happens, as long as you're being your truest self, then people are going to accept you. People are going to love you. That the more authentic you are, the greater divide that people will have. They will either love you or hate you, and you have to be okay with those that hate you and just focus on the ones that love you. And going back to track 6 of But Daddy, I Love Him, when she's saying that scandal brings lovers closer, this is what she means. That by going through this horrible fire upon you that's coming down from the sky, and that you feel unwelcome, that none of it matters, because you're going to attract the people that love you. So the next verse goes, wise men once read fake news and they believed it. Jackals raised their hackles, you couldn't conceive it. You were sleeping soundly when they dragged you from your bed, and I tried to warn you about them. So jackals raising their hackles, this is for any dog. They raise, I have 2 German shepherds, so I like to call when their little shark fins come out, because like when their hackles get raised, like they're ready to combat, like they're feeling threatened, they feel fearful, and that's exactly what happened to her. So I guess it is about the Kim Kanye thing, that people read fake news and everybody believed it. And people that she thought were on her side, like they felt threatened, they felt deceived, and so they started coming up after her, and she couldn't conceive it. She could not believe what was happening. And she says, you were sleeping soundly when they dragged you from your bed. Like, she thought that everything was great, and then all of a sudden, like, her whole castle came crumbling down, and she writes a song about that too, She tried to warn you about them. So I crossed my thoughtless heart, spread my wings like a parachute. I'm the albatross. I swept in at the rescue. The devil that you know looks now more like an angel. I'm the life you chose and all this terrible danger. So here's where she actually calls herself the albatross, and she's saying that you thought that I was the devil, like how I said it earlier, the devil that you know raised worse hell than a stranger. But now you see me as an angel. Now you see the truth. Now you see everything that they put me through, and none of it matters. And I'm okay because I use my wings as a parachute, because like she had her natural wings. She didn't have to rely on anybody. She just had to keep being herself. Like I was saying earlier, like you just have to be yourself, and everything will be okay. So cross your thoughtless heart, she's the albatross, she is here to destroy you, is how this song ends. So, wow. This was a really, really, really great song. All right, now we are moving on to track 20, Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. So I have to just start off by saying that this is my absolute favorite song of the whole album, but as I'm saying that, I'm like, wait, but I really love I Hate It here, so I think that both are tied. But here, let's just go into it and then I'll talk about it. Okay. Your hologram stumbled into my apartment. So the fact that she sees whoever she's talking about, the fact that she's like so detached from him now, that he's a hologram, like he's not even a real person anymore. It reminds me of the phantoms that are secondhand embarrassed, that like there are these ghosts that haunt her, and she talks about it in Florida as well, that like she's gonna be cool with all her ghosts because she's haunted and she's just accepted it. But the fact that it's a hologram, like that it's not real, going back to LOML, like she's calling him straight out, like he's not real. that everything about him was fake. And here it is again, that your hologram stumbled into my apartment, hands in the hair of somebody in darkness, named Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus, and I just watched it happen. So it's interesting here that she's calling him out as bi, right? That Chloe's obviously a girl, Sophia's obviously a girl, Sam could go either way, but then Marcus is for sure a guy, right? So that's interesting too. Like, is she talking about Joe in this song, or is she just leaving it out for anybody, so that it's like more gender neutral? But the way that this song will continue, as you'll see, and I'm sure you know, I'm sure you've heard this song a million times, like me, that this song is so, like, it genuinely hurts her as she's singing this song. Like, it hurt her that she just watched it happen, that she felt like she had no power, she felt like she had no say in it. So, like, what is she gonna do, you know? She's gonna go out there and stop it? Like, no, like, you're your own person, you don't want her, so, like, if you want to be with somebody else, then go for it. She's not gonna grovel for you. So yeah, I just watched it happen. Then it goes on, as the decade would play us for fools. So they got together 2017, 2018. And so the decade that would play us for fools, maybe it's like the beginning of the 2020s. So maybe that everything was good until COVID hit, and then that's like when everything went south. This is me just speculating, so like don't quote me on this. But that's like the way that she's making it seem. As a decade would play us for fools, that like that's when everything went wrong. They broke up in 2023. And now she's saying, you saw my bones out with somebody new. And throughout the whole album, when she talks about bones, she's talking about her soul. So it's not just that you see my body, my physical body with somebody. You see my soul. You see how I'm able to connect with somebody. And I have finally looked up Travis Kelce's birth chart, and just looking purely at his soul evolution, it matches up exactly with Taylor's. Like, isn't that, like, I got goosebumps right now just saying it. Like, that's incredible how, and I don't think that it's absolutely necessary for you to have the same North Node as your partner, but it definitely helps if your souls are on the same path. So Travis and Taylor, they both have, oh man, now I'm forgetting. It's, the axis is Leo and Aquarius, but let me see the exact, I don't know which one's the North Node. Here we go. Okay. The North Node is in Aquarius and the South Node is in Leo. So that's the thing too, is that I feel like with Joe, like she talks about this in Delicate, like, oh, like I'm at my worst. So like, and you still love me. So that's how I know that it's real. But the thing is that I think that he liked her being at her worst, because then he felt like they were at the same level. So now that she's skyrocketing, he doesn't want to join her in that skyrocket journey. He wants to keep things in the dark. He wanted it to be, I guess, like more of a fantasy. That's interesting, because yeah, that's why she's calling him fake now. That he liked just fantasizing with her. He liked being in the darkness. He liked her being in the darkness with him, playing fantasy. And she's like, no, like, I need something real. I need something in the real world, not just in our fantasies. And I think that Travis really does that for her, that he loves the spotlight just as much as she does. And if anything, he's pushing her to love the spotlight even more, which I think is beautiful. And it makes a lot of sense, because if they both have their South Node in Leo, it means that they already know what it's like to be in the public eye. They already know how to deal with being in the spotlight, in having, how do I say this? Having their life on display, I guess. I feel like I'm just saying the same thing over again, so let's move on. But I'm pulling up Taylor's chart now. Okay. So yeah, so it's the same thing. I was right. So yeah, her north node is in her first house, at 19 degrees, which means that she has the underlying energy of a Libra. So that she's working towards being her most authentic self, no matter how weird or insecure she is of that self. That Libra is really pushing her to have her own style, to have her own mark. And Libra is also the ruler of the 7th house. And in her 7th house is Leo. That, oh, how cute that she has fortune there. So her fortune is 5 degrees away from her south node, meaning that she's meant to have a relationship that is out on display for everyone to know about. And I think that is like her evolution through all of the guys of her past, that she's never really had anybody who has wanted to put the relationship out on display for everyone to see. And that's why I think it's so incredible that she has finally found someone who is willing to do that with her. So here, I can't say that that Travis is also in the 7th house, because I don't know what his rising sign is. But I just put a random time in. Let's see what I put. I put 15 o'clock. So what's that? Like 3 p.m. So if this is true, then it's also that he has Leo in the 7th house. So it's also that he wants to put his relationship out for the public to see. If this is true, like I said, I don't know enough about him to be able to fine tune to find his rising sign. But if this random time that I put in here is true, it would be that he is, interesting. It would be that he has an Aquarius undertone, so that it might be a little like nonconformist, kind of a love that he wants to be a part of. And I feel like Taylor is that, she has an Aquarius Venus. She embodies that. So, like I said, I don't know if this is right though. But what I know what is right, because this doesn't change no matter what the rising sign is that Travis has a Sagittarius moon. So that's so beautiful that the way that he loves is the way that she shines to the outer world. And so again, it's like that perfect match of that wildness that she's been craving this whole time. Oh, how cute. And he's a Libra sun. So like I said, those Libra underpinnings of who she's meant to be with her North Node having those Libra undertones, he's shining the light onto her. How beautiful. Let's see here. And his Venus sign is in Scorpio. Ooh, so that means that he's willing to go deep with her. And maybe he hadn't found anybody who was willing to go deep with him. Just like with Taylor, she wanted to go deep with Joe and he just wasn't down for it. And so now she's finding someone who is down for that. That's really, really beautiful. And again, if this is true with his rising sign, because the midheaven does depend on the rising sign, but if it were true, the midheaven is in Scorpio, just like with Taylor. So like I said, the rising sign will still switch, but for sure the north node, south node does not change, and neither does the moon sign. So if we're just basing it on that, it's a perfect match. But I think that was all I was going to say about that. So going back to the text, back to the song, and you saw my bones out with somebody new. So yeah, so she's saying that, like, you're seeing my soul out with somebody new. It's not just like my physical body. It's not like it's this fling where we're just having sex kind of thing, like a friends with benefit situation. Like, it's my actual soul that you're seeing out with somebody new. And this part, I'm like, oh my gosh, like the audacity of this girl who seemed like he would have bullied you in school and you just watched it happen. Sheesh. If you want to break my cold, cold heart, just say I loved you the way that you were. If you want to tear my whole world apart, just say you've always wondered. So here what she's saying is that she just wanted to be accepted and loved for who she truly was, not who she was at her lowest point. She wants to be loved for all of her, for all of her flaws, for like when she was in her darkness, like, thank you for loving me, she's saying. But now that she's better, now that she's well again, she still wants to be loved. She still wants to be loved. And so that will break the coldest of hearts, right? That'll melt away all of it. Like she needed that heat. But with Joe, he has a Taurus moon, so there was no heat in a Taurus. Tauruses would stay away from that. Tauruses don't want any heat. Like I said before, Tauruses, the way that I envision is like this, like grassy, like flowery kind of place. No, fire doesn't belong there. And but she needs somebody to warm her cold heart. And I think that's where like Travis comes in with that Sagittarius moon, who has that heat that can break the coldest of hearts, by just loving her. If you want to tear my whole world apart, just say you've always wondered. I think the wondering part is that, like, wondering if we could have made it in the real world. Aside from the fantasies, do you wonder what it would have been like to actually live all of those fantasies? And I think that's what she's holding on to in this song. That you've always wondered. Do you wonder? Because, like, I still wonder. Like, I wonder what that life could have been like. Then she goes on to say, you said some things that I can't unabsorb. So, like, you really hurt me, and I can't forget those hurtful words that you said. You turned me into an idea of sorts. So I think this could be like putting her on a pedestal where, like, you didn't love me for who I am. You loved the idea of me. You needed me, but you needed drugs more. She talks about it a lot, that he smoked weed, and I couldn't watch it happen. So I wrote caged here, that this is how she's feeling caged, where you didn't love the reality of me, you love the idea of me, and in that way you caged me up into this pedestal of a woman, instead of loving the actual real human being. And that could be caging, because if you put somebody into a box, and I feel like Tauruses are really, really good at this, at putting things in boxes. Tauruses are an earth sign, so they have this, and so she couldn't watch it happen. That's why she needed to leave, because we'll just leave it there. I change into goddesses, villains, and fools, change plans and lovers, and outfits and rules, all to outrun my desertion of you, and you just watched it. So she's saying that, like, she tried to get out of that box that he placed her in. She tried turning into all these different things, and even when it was over, she kept trying to change and morph and transform to outrun the desertion of you. Like, she tried to move on and to figure out who is she outside of this relationship. We see this in track 7, Fresh Out the Slammer, when she's running back to her soul, because she had to hide it away. She couldn't be her truest self with him, and he just watched it happen. Then she goes back to the chorus, which I won't read again because it's the same. And then she goes, if the glint in my eye trace the depths of your sigh, down that passage in time, back to the moment I crashed into you, like so many wrecks do, too impaired by my youth to know what to do. So she's saying that like, if she went back in time, right? I think this is the whole thing about, like, going back to the beginning, like, where did it all go wrong is what she's looking at. And she's calling herself, like, a shipwreck. So going back to, like, So Long London, that she calls what they did as a ship. Like, it was very watery, right? Like, he's a Pisces sun, she's a Cancer moon, that she felt like she was drowning the whole time. They needed that boat, but it was crashed. I crash into you like so many wrecks do, too impaired by my youth to know what to do, that she didn't know what to do with that. Like, okay, we're on a ship. Maybe that's like why with the Albatross she was talking about, like that mariner, like Joe's the mariner, she's the Albatross, and he killed her thoughtlessly, because neither of them knew what they were doing, and they were just living in this fantasy, and she had to get out. So then she says, so if I sell my apartment and you have some kids with an internet scarlet, will that make your memory fade from this scarlet maroon? And of course, maroon is from Midnights. So with Maroon, she's talking about a memory of when they were drinking rosé and he spilled his wine on her, and so that's Maroon. And then the lips that she used to call home, those were Maroon, and how her cheeks they would blush, how she blushed, and her cheeks were Maroon. And so she's saying, like, if you have kids with somebody else and I sell my apartment, will that make this memory fade? And it's like what she was saying before, like down that passage of time, like going back to the beginning, and again, like with the alcohol anointing them, that, like, she's asking, like, will you still wonder? Do you still wonder about this stuff? But that with Maroon, like, she even says, like, the rubies that I gave up to be with you, and yeah, that he was the one that she was dancing with. Okay, here's the line. Oh my gosh. Okay, so it says, carnations that you thought were roses, that's us. That you thought that it was something more than it was, that we're carnations, we're not roses. Again, with the being fake. That this is the way that things always end. How did we lose sight of us again? Whereas before she says that, like, I lost track of time. So again, with like that passage of time. But yeah, that's what she's asking here. Like, will you still have this memory? Will you still think of this, hold this memory as sacred to who we were? So I'm going to read this part again. So if I sell my apartment and you have some kids with an internet starlet, will that make your memory fade from this scarlet maroon like it never happened? Could it be enough just to float in your orbit? Can we watch our phantoms, again with the phantoms, like wild horses, again with the wild, cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be. It just didn't happen. And this, I love this line, because this is exactly what you want when a relationship ends. You want to just watch our phantoms like wild horses, even though you know that it's over. You just want to hold on to something, because you think that this relationship was special, and you think that this relationship was something to hold on to, but the other person doesn't. And so that's what she's saying, like, it's cooler in theory, but not if you force it to be. And it just didn't happen. And it's just so heartbreaking that we can't float in each other's orbits anymore, because we just aren't meant to be together. And then it goes on to say, so if you want to break my cold, cold heart, say you loved me. And if you want to tear my world apart, say you'll always wonder, 'cause I wonder. And then she questions, will I always wonder? So she's just starting something new with Travis, and she's still getting over Joe, because she had this whole life planned with him in her head, and it kills her that she can never live that life. A couple of episodes ago, I said that Shoulda, Coulda, Woulda was about, when I first heard it, Midnights, when it first came out, I thought that it was like she had like a miscarriage, that it's this child that she'll never be able to hold or to have a life with. But now reading this, I'm like, I think it's about Joe, that she had all these hopes and dreams with him, and it's like, for what? None of it's gonna come true. And that's like where she says the line in Love of My Life, where she says, you should talk me under the table, talking rings and talking cradles, that we had all these plans and none of it is coming true. So yeah, she doesn't want to always wonder. She wants to be able to move on from this, but it's hard. And that's why she wishes that we could just float in each other's orbits, even if we can't be together. But she knows that that's not possible. And so my hope for her is that she can now start to envision this new life with this new person, and in 5-10 years from now, she'll know that, like, she won't wonder anymore. She'll know that whatever plans that she had with Joe are nothing compared to the reality that she has with Travis. Again, those are just my hopes for her, but I think that she would have the same hope. So I just went to go re-look at Woulda, Shoulda, Coulda, and I don't know what I was thinking. I think I must be thinking of a different song about a miscarriage, because very clearly it is not about that at all, so I'm sorry for even saying that. But let's go over just 2 lines here. She says, and now that I'm grown, I'm scared of ghosts. Memories feel like weapons. And now that I know, I wish you left me wondering. God rest my soul. I miss who I used to be. So this is the part where, like, fresh out the slammer, she had to, like, put away her soul, basically, in order to be with him. I miss who I used to be. The tomb won't close. Stained glass in my mind. Stained glass windows in my mind. I regret you all the time. I can't let this go. I fight with you in my sleep. The wound won't close. So the tomb won't close and the wound won't close. It's this, in what song? Love of My Life, or LOML, because it could be Loss of My Life. She talks about how, like, every time that she was about to, like, break up with him and be done with him, he would always come back and make things better. So she says, if clarity's in death, then why won't this die? Let me pull up the actual lyrics of the LOML song. It's right here. It says, too far. Here it is. Still alive, killing time at the cemetery, never quite buried in your suit and tie, in the nick of time. You low down boy, you stand up guy, you Holy Ghost, you told me I'm the love of your life. That every time that she was ready to, like, bury the hatchet, he would come and say, like, oh, but you're the love of my life, like, don't leave me. And I think that that's what Woulda, Shoulda, Coulda is about too. Like, that she wants this to be done, but it just keeps coming up, and she can't get rid of him. Years of tearing down our banners, you and I, living for the thrill of hitting you where it hurts. Give me back my girlhood, it was mine first. And so she talks about that too. Like, I'm pissed that I gave you all this youth for free. And then in the last song, in track 20, she says, too impaired by my youth to know what to do. So she talks about, like, this was the first time, like, everybody else, like, they were just, like, she didn't take them as seriously, but here she was very serious, and she really wanted to be with him. And she says, but Lord, you made me feel important, and then you tried to erase us. Oh, you're a crisis of my faith. So yeah, definitely not. I guess I don't know where. I must have watched, like, a TikTok or something that said that, and I just went along with it. But yeah, like, even the way that shoulda, coulda, woulda starts off, if you would have blinked and I would have looked away at the first glance, like, I didn't even want to go down this. But I feel like that's, like, what happens in a relationship when you're at this stage of deciding whether to stay with somebody or breaking up with somebody, that you try to go back to the beginning, which is what we talked about in track 20. Like, that she goes back down to the beginning, back to the moment when I crashed into you, like so many wrecks do. But she says here, in woulda, coulda, shoulda, if you tasted poison, you could have spit me out at first chance. If I was some paint, did it splatter on a promising grown man? And if I was a child, did it matter if you got to wash your hands? Like, all I used to do was pray, woulda, shoulda, coulda. If you never looked my way, I would have stayed down on my knees. So yeah, definitely, I would say it's about Joe. It's about deciding, like, should I break up with him? Should I not? And like thinking of like all these like negative things so that you can break up with him. And I feel like we've all been through that when we're in that deciding point where things are starting to fall apart. So yeah, that is where we're at with that, with track 20. Now moving on to track 21. How did it end? Okay, so I figured out what I meant with woulda, coulda, shoulda. I meant bigger than the whole sky, that this was the song, and I think I got it confused because she says, I'm never gonna meet what could have been, would have been, what should have been you. And she said a couple of times, so in my head it just came with coulda, woulda, shoulda, but it's obviously different. But here she's saying, like, did some force take you because I didn't pray? Every single thing to come has turned into ashes because it's all over. It's not meant to be. So I'll say some words I don't believe. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. You were bigger than the whole sky. You were more than just a short time. And I've got a lot to pine about. I've got a lot to live without. And I'm never going to meet what could have been, would have been, should have been you. So that's what I meant. Just wanted to clear things up. Now we can go back to track 21. How did it end? So this song starts off with, we hereby conduct this post-mortem. So it's saying, like, she's, now that the relationship's dead, she has it out on the table and she's ready to do like the autopsy. Like, how did this end? How did this relationship die? She starts it off by saying, he was a hothouse flower to my outdoorsman. So the hothouse flower is this like really delicate flower to my outdoorsman. So again, with her wild self. Our maladies were such we could not cure them. So she's saying, like, our malady, like we had an illness and we couldn't cure them because they were that big. And then this line, oh my gosh. And so a touch that was my birthright became foreign. And I wrote, freedom feels for most. This is what freedom feels for most, where we as humans have a birthright to freedom, yet it has been taken away from us. And so a touch that was my birthright became foreign. And so that's why, like, now, so I read a lot of early modern philosophy, and in it they talk about like all the laws that were in place that did not allow people the freedom to marry who they wanted to have the career that they wanted to. It was all decided by the parents. And now we do have that freedom. Yet, so many of us don't take that opportunity because our parents say to do this or say to do that. And the thing is that now we actually have the power to break away from that societally. That in the past they didn't. But I think it's because that birthright of freedom feels foreign to us. It's scary to go outside of what has been the path for centuries that has been developed, that you go to school, you get a good job, you get married, you have kids, you work for 50 years, and then you die. Like, how is that a life? And so that's like a whole other thing of like what I'm working on how to changing that. But I love that she has that in here, that a touch that was my birthright became foreign. Okay, and then she says, come one, come all, it's happening again. So here it's like it's a show, right? Like, she thought, she really, really believed, she's like, wow, like we passed the 2-year mark. This is her longest relationship by far, right? We passed the 2-year mark, we passed the 3-year mark, like it's actually happening this time. Like, she gets so excited, like finally, I can finally settle down with somebody. I can stop my search for finding true love. Like, it's finally here. I was listening to White Horse the other day, And it made me, like, I'm married, right? So it made me so happy because that song, like, I'm sure for you too, like, every song reminds you of a different guy. And so it was cool going through each of her albums and thinking about all the guys from my past that these songs would remind me of them. And like, Taylor helped me get through them through her songs. And in White Horse, she says, like, but it's too late because, like, my prince in shining armor is here now. And so, I actually want to, like, read you the actual line here. So it's towards the end of the song, where she says that, because I'm not your princess, this isn't our fairy tale. I'm gonna find someone someday who might actually treat me well. And, like, that part made me cry because it's like, wow, like, I found that, you know, like, I actually found somebody who does treat me well. And so, like, the guy that this song used to remind me of, like, is irrelevant, because this came out when I was in high school. So I was, like, so heartbroken over this guy. And then, like, now looking back more than 10 years later, like, wow, like, I did find somebody, you know? And so I wonder if Taylor ever does that, like, go back to her old songs and think, like how I just did, or if she thinks, like songs, especially, like, in Folklore and Evermore, where a lot of the songs were created out of her imagination, like, will she go back if they actually relate to a love, you know? So those are the things I wonder about. But the thing is that if she did do it, she might have thought that Joe was that person, somebody who might actually treat her well, and thinking, like, yeah, we have our issues, we have our problems, but we can work through them. And that's why here in How Did It End, our maladies were such that we could not cure them. But I'm sure that she thought that she could, you know, like, my boy only breaks his favorite toys. Like, she thought that she was his favorite toy. Or, like, in track 2, the Tortured Poets Department, she's like, this is just an episode, but I love the show, like, I'm gonna stay. And so the fact that they broke up, that's how she's saying, like, she's making fun of it, like, come one, come all, it's happening again. Like, if it's like a sideshow, like at a circus, like, come one, come all, it's happening again. The empathetic hunger descends, so everybody's, like, wishing her sympathy, giving her sympathy, and she's like, I don't want any of it. Like, just leave me alone. Like, this is my private thing. Like, I don't want anybody to know about it. Where she says, we'll tell no one except all of our friends, because obviously it has to come out. She knows that she is a public figure, where a thing like this, it has to come out. And then she speaks for us and says, we must know, how did it end? And the whole point of this song is that she has no idea. She, even in track 20, she's saying she goes back in time and tries to figure it out. Like, where did things go wrong? How could I have not seen the signs? How could I have not known that this was fake? And that's the next line here. It says, we were blind to unforeseen circumstances. Where, like, neither of them knew going into it. And so, like, how I read to you from Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda, like, what did I say? That if I was poisoned, why didn't you spit me out? And if you looked my way, if you looked to me, I would have looked away. But that they were blind to see these circumstances, these unforeseen circumstances. And this line is so beautiful. We learn the right steps to different dances, that we just don't belong together, even though in track 3 she says that we fit so perfectly together. But just because you fit so perfectly together at one point in your life, the whole point of life is to grow. And if you no longer fit as you grow, then it's not the error, it's fake. And she goes on to say, we fell victim to interlopers' glances. So, and I think this means, she said it in one line, and I can't remember what song it is, but she says that, I think it was in Fresh Out the Slammer. She says that you had, like, a girl in your dreams, or, like, you were talking to some girl, or something about a girl, And then obviously for her in Guilty as Sin, we see it where she got her interloper. So it says, we fell victim to interlopers' glances. So these glances from other people, they got swept away into other things, other people. Lost the game of chance, what are the chances? Soon they'll go home to their husbands. So I think this is in relation to Fortnite or Florida's, where she also talks about husbands. But maybe that girl that she was talking about in Fresh Out the Slammer, maybe she was married. I don't know. Smug because they know they can trust him, then feverishly calling their cousins. I'm not quite sure what that means, but maybe it's like somebody was cheating and they thought that they assumed, like they thought that they could trust him, but then they went off and called all their cousins. Maybe. I'm not sure. Guess who he ran into at the shops, walking in circles like she was lost. Didn't you hear they called it all off? One gasp, and then, how did it end? So she's envisioning, like she's trying to think of everything that people could say bad about her or bad about the relationship. So this is like making fun of herself in a way, just like how she was saying before with come on Kamal, it's happening again. Here she's saying like it's like a group of girls gossiping, like, oh, you'll never guess who I ran into in the shops, like Taylor Swift. She was walking in circles like she was lost. And then another girl, didn't you hear they called it all off? And then a gasp. And then, how did it end? Say it once again with feeling, how the death rattled breathing, silenced as the soul was leaving. It's interesting because she never talks about soul or spirit about herself. She only talks about soul or spirit as far as the relationship. So like in So Long London, when she's like doing the CPR and she's like, the spirit's gone. And so the relationship's dead. And then here too, say it once again with feeling, how the death rattled breathing, silenced the soul as the soul was leaving. So the rattle, it's kind of like the rattlesnake, right? Like right before it ends, the rattle goes off and it gets silenced as the soul was leaving. The deflation of our dreaming. So again, like what I was saying before, that they had all these hopes and dreams together that were never realized. And so it's like the deflation of that. Like they were like pumping up this balloon of all their hopes and dreams and filling it with air. Because if I'm right, and Joe Alwyn is a Gemini rising, which I keep coming back to because it keeps coming up in these lyrics. And she's an Aquarius rising, so all of that air energy going into this balloon that was supposed to raise them up, just like in the movie Up, now it's getting deflated. The deflation of our dreaming left me bereft and reeling. So bereft means emptiness and reeling is dizziness. So she's like, what just happened? Like, she's like, she was in this whirlwind, like I mentioned at the beginning with Delicate. She was in this whirlwind and she was swept away with Joe. And now that it's over, now the deflation of our dreaming is like it's kind of like when you let go of a balloon. You blow up a balloon and you don't tie it, you let it go and it just kind of goes anywhere, everywhere. And it leaves one feeling empty and dizzy. My beloved ghost in me, so now she's calling him a ghost, sitting in a tree, DYING. And then she goes back to saying it's happening again. How did it end? I can't pretend like I understand. How did it end? And then she repeats it again. Come one, come all, it's happening again. The empathetic hunger descends. It's interesting that she talks about it like an empathetic hunger. Like if us, the public, we're all just wolves, just waiting to tear her apart and pretend that we're sheep. That pretend that we're there for her because we care. How does she say it? And I think it's in But Daddy, I Love Him, where she's saying that they try and save you because they hate you. Where she's saying like nobody really cares. Everyone's just fake. and everybody's just hunger for this kind of show. We'll tell no one except all of our friends, but I still don't know. How did it end? So she leaves us with a question because she has no idea. She feels like she did everything right, and for some reason it just wasn't. And of course, I wanted to mention, just going back to that sitting in a tree, DYING, because clearly it's in a reference to when they say, Joe and Taylor sitting in a tree, KISSING. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes baby in a baby carriage. That's not all that, it keeps going on. So she's saying, how that's what she thought she had. That kind of, even as kids, we just, we make it up, we're just for fun, but there's still, some truth behind it. And, that's what she's been after this whole time. Look at Love Story. Look at White Horse, what I was mentioning earlier. From the very, very beginning. Look at, in her debut, Mary's song. She's always wanted this fairy tale ending. She has a song, Today Was a Fairy Tale. So she's always wanted this. And so here, the time that she actually thought she had it, she was so close to having it all. She says that in LOML, that she can't unrecall how they almost had it all, and now here they are sitting in a tree, DYING, and going back to shoulda, coulda, woulda, she says that why can't this die? And that's how she starts off LOML, is it what's gonna stop us from coming back together again? Because I feel like at that point, especially Midnights, it came out a while ago. So they were already having issues that they weren't sharing with the public. And I don't think, us as fans, we didn't really consider how... Because I think after, Folklore and Evermore, a lot of us just kind of brushed it off. Oh, it's just another one of, a song about her imagination, not something that she's actually going through. But now that we know that they actually broke up, now going back and reading these lyrics of these songs, whoa, they've been on and off since Midnights came out, and finally now it's dead, which is really sad. But I think I don't want to say it's how do I say this? It is really, really sad. But I think, the silver lining is that she has already met somebody new. I think if this album came out without her meeting Travis and falling in love and having this fairy tale romance that she's always wanted, as she describes in the next song, So High School, it would have changed the dynamic of this album. It would have been a full-on breakup album. It already is, but at least you have these glimmers of hope where it's not just dark and dreary 24/7. So yeah, these three are amazing songs. I don't want to say my favorite, but they're all three up there. Especially now after reading Albatross and it's in reference to Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem. That just completely changed my perspective on it. So I hope it did for you too. So next time we will go over So High School, as well as I Hate It Here, which I have already said is my absolute favorite, and then Thank You, Amy. So I will see you next time. Tune in tomorrow to hear our regular scheduled programming, if you will, of the Emerald Tablets. So every single Wednesday, we go over the Emerald Tablets, which has been so eye-opening, and I've really enjoyed reading them. And I believe we're on Tablet 7, if not 8, and so that'll be coming out tomorrow. If you don't care about the Emerald Tablets, no worries. Like I said, the next 3 songs of the Tortured Poets Department, the anthology, will be coming out soon after. Alright, everybody. I will see you next time. Bye.